is that non-epistemics of the entire flow of the activities. Now, what do I mean by non-epistemics? Epistemics means somehow I have the knowledge. However, in this flow of the activities, if I concern myself with the mental management, okay, am I really know what it is? The answer is no. So, that's why I said it's a non-epistemic. Now, similarly, with the physical well-being, are we really able to understand and say, okay, I know this is going to be very good for the physical management. Similarly, emotional, and I'm even introduced the word intelligence also side by side in the flow of my concept of the well-being. Then in the end, one more thing that I was trying to understand is that it's not just the macrocosmic or the macrocosmic that I'm talking about. You see, whenever we are talking about these two cosmics, I should say that either we are seeing the I should say intersection of them, or two different sets together. Or is it like that? As I said, in the level of the cases of the disturbances, here in symbiotic responsibilities, which you will see in my discussion, here, however, I'm just giving you the hint right now, government, leaders, common individuals. When I say common individuals, I'm including educated, non-educated. You will see why I have used these two variables in my discussion. Men versus women. Then comes children, youth, management, companies, organizations, institutes, etc., etc., etc. So, the moment I come over to that particular slide, you will be able to understand more about it. Now, questions from management, or I should say questions for management. Okay. Now, here you will see that what is happening around us. On a daily basis, I don't know about each one of you. However, I see there are a lot of changes in my own life. Initially, my parents, being a single sibling, they used to tell me, okay, Ramani would be ready and she's a workaholic, so she's away. Or she's away to the college. Later on, she will be busy with her faculty development programs or the training session and everything. So that means that they have a complaint and they say that, no, you're not able to give us the time. However, now when I'm at home, am I able to satisfy them? Am I able to take care? Or do we see the changes in the same employee work, family, life balance that I'm talking about? So, that's the question I'm looking for, and seeing the scenarios, looking at the model that I have got in front of me, and that is somehow is at the background of my mind, and I'm trying to understand, am I able to take care of these things also? Now, how are we dealing with them? Right now, previously what had happened, right now what is happening, or I would say every day or with every lockdown announcement which is present, how are we taking care of them? Then will I get full pay? Now, when I say I should have placed the word pay in double quotes, it means a lot for me as an employee also, as a family individual also. Am I getting that full pay attention? That is what I'm looking for. How will I report to my superiors? Now, that is also biggest thing. Now, usually what happens when I'm going to the college, they see me, my attendant, the access, the finger access is there. Then I go biometric, I mean to say. Then, students are able to see, I get the report. Then, a lot of activities are taking place. However, now when we are at home, things have changed for us. How are we taking care of those things? Now, that is another area that one can really look and understand. Similarly, how will I work from home? Now, you see, for a techie person like me, I call myself to be a geek because I'm very comfortable with the technology. The day I see that, yes, internet is not there or my mobile phone is not working right now, I see the disturbances in my own self, and it is hitting not just my mind. Now, I'm not using the word mental out here. It is affecting my mind, my physical health, Secondly, do we see that yes, the kind of connectivity this has, or the immediate repercussions when I'm working from home? I've just given you one example. However, when I see another person who is a non-techie, the kind of difficulties they have got, similarly the health issues, the eyesight especially, because you're sitting in front of the computer or you're glued to your mobile phone, are you able to see the changes in yourself? Now that's the reason why I'm looking for these kind of things. How will I work from home? Now, is the doctor available for me immediately? What happens if my specs are broken? I know the difficulty when my specs were broken, and how should I go ahead and place let's say an order for getting a spectacle to my home. Now when I placed this call to the optician, he said, ma'am, I'm so sorry, the shop is closed. Then when shocked, I got this message via the WhatsApp saying that you can place the order of your specs via online and it would be delivered to your home with safe. Now you see, the concept of safety has also changed for us. Now you will see that yes, these kind of things which are available to us, how the business, the entire concept of the management coming from the traditional shopping centers, I would say, to the online shopping centers. Have you, Amazon, then coming to Zomato, Swiggy, then I would say even Flipkart, the way they have started off in giving us and delivering what I call it as the groceries and the food items, including the vegetables and fruits. Now suddenly I see that all the apps which are available, you see, it's not just opening the website on my computer. The moment I say, why don't you go ahead and install the app, and initially we will see that apps, when I'm going to download, it can be done through the mobile phone. However, now sitting on a laptop itself, if you have a good smartphone with you, you can see that I can install the app through the laptop and it is opening. Now these are the changes. Now are you really comfortable with those changes? Now my mother, who hails from a very traditional background, and she prefers, how can I buy vegetables online, Ramani? What will happen if the vegetables are rotten? These are certain things. Again, you will have to be very observant, be very sensitive towards the new changes that have come in, and this is also part of the management. So maybe later on, very soon, I would say, like Prime Minister, our respected Prime Minister has ordered that yes, new educational policies and new programs, maybe we are coming up with what I call it as home management, which can be a new course tomorrow. From home, how are you managing various things? Now it is pertaining from very simple things from your life, and trust me, you should be ready for all these kind of changes. With the AI, the moment I open my computer, I have this speech recognition, which means that I don't have to type anything. Can you see, if you are continuously keying the words on your computer fingers, at the end of the day, how the fingers are working, and are you able to do those exercises? So you are able to find out new things which are coming up. Now the next one, let me proceed further with the next point. How will I get the teamwork done? Now when I talk about the new teamwork in colleges, fine, the HOD tells us we are going to have a meeting. Please, all of you gather in this. Or principal ma'am or principal sir tells us, okay, let us go ahead and meet for an urgent meeting. That let's go further. However, now I'm seeing the changes have come in for the teamwork also side by side. You don't have to see them when okay, now I haven't shared that yes, I have my own YouTube channel. You all can Google around under the name of Ramani Sharma, and you will see that one of the playlists which I recorded and uploaded last year, I remember it very well, in the month of June on G Suite. It's a product which is available through Google, and being a Google ambassador, I was very happy. And I had to train, and when I was doing that, nobody was so keen to understand, okay, these are things available. However, now, due to the pandemics, I'm seeing that the changes have come in. What I was observing last year and thinking that, okay, this now I see the manner in which we are taking care of the teamworks has suddenly changed. I don't have to showcase, I don't have to take an approval waiting for the approval standing outside the room of the designated higher authority. Now, through the G Suite, I can simply go ahead, send them the approval, ask them, can you please, with the digital signatures, can you believe that? Now, if I ask my father, can you please sign it out here? Now, the first question they ask you is, why do you need my signatures? Give me the reason. And we know we used to show our report cards or papers or the, let's say, land papers or agreement papers, whatever they are. They used to do it physically. However, with the digital signatures, again, the scenarios are very different. Are we very comfortable in giving? And if you understand the importance of the digital signatures, you will see that the company who is responsible of taking care of your digital signature, that is the first, because I'm a student of law also. So my first priority was, because I'm placing the digital signature in the cloud server. Okay. So the question arises, is somebody going to misuse my signature? Then I have seen the company who is helping you to proceed further with the digital signature tells you, why don't you come up with a new signature of yours? So, does that mean that a single person has got two signatures? Earlier in the traditional domain, we used to have only one. The banks are checking your signatures. That is again part. If you are sensitive enough, you can observe the kind of changes we are going through right now. Now, I don't have to, let's say I have relocated myself and I have rented a home and my landlord is in USA. Okay. Now, first of all, I have to scan my papers, send it to the person, then through their signatures, again, I'm getting them. However, apart from the rent agreements, there are other papers also that I need. So can the landlord trust me and authorize me? Okay, I'm giving you this digital signature of mine. You can use it on let's say some of the papers, if you remember that in certain rental places, let's say in Delhi and NCR regions, we have apartments. Now, every apartment, rather than getting a cylinder from the way we used to get it from the authorized center, nowadays we have got these gas lines. Now, you see, if I have to apply for the gas line, I need landlord signature. So he has given me the authority. So why I'm using this example is that landlord has got so much of trust on his tenant, that they are authorizing and giving you the to use the digital signatures. Now, the scenario of being trustworthiness between two individuals, again, you will have to understand. So, this is how you should understand teamwork and the kind of help we are getting from technology. So, this is the reason why I've raised, how will I get help from technology? Now, it looks, okay, she is just reading. However, when I'm saying, how can I get help from technology? There are so many things. As a project management leader, when I am giving away, assigning, delegating the work to the entire project team, how are they going to report back to me? Towards the end of the day, do they have to show me physically and say, okay, this is it? Or if they have to get the approval, immediate approval from their client, do they have to send the papers, take my signatures again? Or if you are in G Suite, the technology that I'm talking about, it gives you that, yes, you are able to showcase the papers over the G Suite product itself. We will see later on, there are a lot of products which are available, and the leader or the team manager is able to authorize, approve, give instant authorization. Okay, proceed further. Now, are we getting used to these kind of technologies is what I'm looking for when I question how will I get help from technology. The next is how will I overcome the disturbances and uncertainties. As I told you, I broke my glasses. Next day, I was thinking for 2 months because the shops were closed, no optician was available in Delhi region, so I could not place an order. The day I ordered, my optician said, "Sorry, Ramani, over the phone, it cannot be ordered. You cannot place your order like that. You have to come." I said, "You have my details. You're my optician." He said, "That was 4 years ago. I need the status right now, so you will have to visit." Later on, I saw that, the next few weeks, it was almost 2.5 weeks. Then I saw the doctor optician telling to me, "No need to worry. Now, government has authorized us that yes, we can go ahead. We can send the optician with the entire apparatus so that they can check." So, you will see these things taking place on Facebook. Why the Facebook is talking about? Because I was trying to find out one fine day, can I place the order? So through sales artificial intelligence, that means sales AI is the technology product through which they were able to track the customers needs, that is me, and how are they fulfilling my demand through these. And then I saw that they started flashing out the companies wherein you can get the automatic spectacles, wherein through the screws I can adjust the eyesight of mine. Then I was wondering, every individual has got a different eyesight, will the screw really help me? And then they said yes, you will be getting a chart when I spoke to the customer service person. So, you will be saying that yes, with time, these kind of businesses, these kind of what I call it as innovativeness in your own demands are changing. So that doesn't mean that I'm the only one who has broken her spectacles. It could be that anywhere in the country there are individuals. So these are the disturbances and uncertainties, and we will have I have seen that yes, these kind of disturbances had been tackled and new innovative solutions have been launched in the market. You just need to be careful, and we never know what kind of new technology is going to be launched in next half an hour in the market. Now, how will I tackle the issues of the social distancing? Now, when I'm talking about the social distancing, it's not just between two individuals. Can there be social distancing at home itself? Also, number one. Number two, how about the governments? Now, through the social distancing itself, can, be more innovativeness and creativity? The answer definitely we all know is yes. However, how they are changing, how these changes are being taken care of is the one that we need to focus upon as an individual coming from the Department of Management. So these are just few questions that I have raised. Now, coming from the financial background, obviously, being a single sibling, I'm responsible to take care of my parents. Okay, now the question arises, how would I manage my finances? Now, if I'm at home, I'm not able to run around and, move around to get my things done. How will I manage it? And this is something that we need to understand and look at the scenarios again in our financial domain. And now this is where I would say, financial behavior comes in. Financial behavior does not mean only, restricted to certain areas. Look around you and you will see a lot of changes have been there. So what changes are seen towards the financial behavior? Can one observe changes in the financial? I have used the word movement. Reason, these are really small things. However, if you combine them together, it has really become a movement for us. So you will understand. If you're comfortable, like every person, a layman, a rickshaw puller himself is asking me, "Ma'am, आपके पास ना cash नहीं है तो कोई बात नहीं, आप ना मेरे को Paytm कर दीजिए." And I just started looking. The person is aware of the bank account. The person is able to carry a smart or Android phone. The person knows Paytm app. The person is able to sync and the rest of the things also side by side. Even a simple Mali who is selling the plant बोल देता है आपको कि yes, can you please go ahead and transfer the amount to me via, and now you will see that the wallets. Then with the global scenario, what happened with the Google Pay? We all know that. Now, GPay was something with which I was very comfortable because Paytm has some leverages, and you will see the changes in these e-wallets also all by yourself. Now, that's why I said we have a lot of financial movement out here, and you have to simply look into it and see how the things have really changed in the financial domain also. Are there paradigm shifts in the financial movement, covering the common man to the companies and organizations? Answer is yes. We have seen that if you are working in a company, you know what kind of scenarios are there and how the changes are taking place over there. Okay. Now, similarly, the organizations, how are they taking care? My company, let's say, is placed in America. Staying in Delhi, how are we taking care of it again during the time of it? Is there a need for a third party, or are we able to take care of it directly? Is there relationship between leadership and payouts for their employees? Of course, yes. We have seen initially everything was based on performance based. We know the models, performance based, and how the model in which we have seen performance based is got that kind of an impact on my financial package. Right now, when I'm at home, you have seen that at least 2 to 3 lockdowns, companies had made an announcement that yes, we don't mind, employees are at home. And at that time, we have seen that they were not even demanding, okay, we want this kind of a work to be done. Okay, on one hand, I'm seeing that company has said for next 5 months, we are giving the payout. And even now I'm seeing there are a lot of things. Now here, I would like to even introduce and say the manner Prime Minister I should add the word, has said that yes, for so many accounts, I'm going to give this much amount. And what is happening? The collected fund, the definition of it is something that, again, each one of us have to understand and see the models, how the empirical models, I would say, not the theoretical one, how well they are changing, and your own observations can be incorporated, and direction in your own research changes. Now, that is something which you will have to understand. What and how? Now, shifts in the employment in USA, okay, effects in India and China. We have seen immediately a big country, the world's richest country, USA, saying that, you know, okay, Indians who are settled out here, if they don't have any work to do, they can go back home. We are going to help you out with the traveling amount and everything. Why? What kind of a shift was taking place? Now, my cousin sister, who is placed in USA and in a big company that she is working in a multinational company, and she said that, Ramani, I'm coming. Now, the question was very easy for her to say that, yes, I'm traveling all the way from USA to India. However, the question arises when they are arriving to India, what kind of a things are being taken care out here? Now, those are the changes. And did we really see that particular movement for the changes itself? Then in China, we all know why and in what manner, and the way things were taken away, TikTok and the other payments, e-wallets also, they said that we are not going to help you out. I'm going to cite this example. Now, I am really interested in, attending one of the faculty development program taking place at the global level. Now, without anything, I told the organizers, okay, I would be present, and attending it means I have to pay my registration fee. Now, I said, okay, I'll go ahead and pay to you. And it was a very normal amount of 800 rupees. I didn't mind. I said, I just have to do the internet banking and I can take care. Trust me, I had so much of difficulty in making that international payment. Reason, if I do it via Paytm or Google or through the internet banking, I had to place a call to the bank and ask them, okay, I had to tell me, should I come to the bank? They said, no, yes, you have to come physically to the bank. Number one, remember, physically they're asking me, would I take the risk to go to the bank? Okay, the kind of pandemic scenarios which are taking place, number one. Then they said that you will have to place your signature, go back to the main branch, and they will authorize to you. It will take 2 days. I said, without me coming over, if you had given me the bank application, if I'm able to do everything, can't I do this thing? They said, no, your signatures have to be verified. I said, but you already have my signature with your. You can do that, and trust me, they did not allow me to do it. And I had the difficulty, which means that for international payments I don't have a solution. I cannot do that. Then I thought, okay, let me go ahead and take it through PayPal. Okay, I tried Western Union, I tried a lot of things. Then I realized it, that was my database. Around 35 international exchange centers, they were all coming from China, and they said that your country does not authorize to do the international. Then I understood, okay, so my financial things are all being controlled by Chinese apps, so I cannot do it. Then I had to register myself on PayPal, and PayPal had this problem that it will allow you to give the debit card. However, if I have to purchase something, if I have to pay something and buy something, like for example, the registration fee, I need to have a credit card. Now, I refused because I don't believe in credit. So I said, I don't want a credit card. I was unable to do it. Now, can you see the scenarios? Now, this is where I would say these are the financial behaviors that you will have to understand and see and look for the solutions that are present and are there, and how to tackle them and to move ahead. Similarly, pandemic financial movement in India through world leaders. Now you will see, if Trump wanted something, he is, we all know his nature. I don't want to make it public. Okay. However, when his interaction is taking place, his communication is taking place in the public domain to Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji, you can see that how well he places, and if Modi ji is not accepting him, then the way he gives him his reactions. Now you see, those are also the financial movement, and he says that yes, if you are able to do so many IT companies, so many things, so repercussions you are able to understand, and the financial importance to it. Now suddenly I saw that Samsung had made an announcement, India, we are going to give you so much. Okay, healthcare center, definitely. Now, what does this mean? There are changes in the financial movement also. Now, if those financial changes are taking place, are we able to understand the concepts of online transactions? Now, that is where I was thinking about, and from past 1 week, I was reading a lot of papers wherein we are talking about inflation variables, okay, towards the PPP exchange rate theories, on one hand. On the other hand, the impact of non-inflationary variables on PPP exchange rate theories I was looking for. And surprisingly, I have seen that these inflationary variables played a very positive impact on certain countries. On the other hand, I have seen countries like China and UK, okay, they were able to play and bring in a lot of positive changes through the non-variable inflationary variables. Now, if you look, these are now the scenario which I'm seeing right now is the joint ventures. I wouldn't say joint venture. In fact, I would say combined effect of both inflationary and non-inflationary variables towards the PPP exchange rates. And you will see later on how well these things. Now, that is something, again, you will have to understand and see the economic changes which are taking place through the financial transactions also. So these are certain things which I really wanted to highlight through raising these questions. Then comes questions from ICT, my favorite domain. Technology is something I love, and I have seen that during these pandemic times, a lot of changes have been taken place with the help of technology. Now, how to get involved with technology? We have seen that the so-called agile one. We all know, as students of management, agile technology plays a very important role. Till now, I was seeing, in industries, empirical studies or academic papers. However, now in reality, you are seeing it, experiencing it. And this covers right from children, youth, even to the senior citizens. Now, I've seen the Facebook full, it says that 80-year-old woman cooking, earning money. She's feeding the necessary people who are working. And so, does she need any training? No, she's able to maintain the entire business on her own. No, those are the things that I'm looking for. Similarly, how to deal with the technological ignorance. Now, there were people, a lot of people, when we asked them, okay, go ahead and proceed further with the online teaching, we saw the kind of ignorances we had. How to share the screen, how am I supposed to be presentable, can I do whatever, or like in some domains we do talk about body shaming. So can I say that yes, there are what I call it as technological shaming also, and how to deal with them. Okay, so here it's a move from some I have to keep it in double quote, to mass. When I say the entire country or majority of the individuals. Now, what are different challenges from the technology and the pandemics? We have seen that on a daily basis, some of us are able to see, maybe with the financial apps, maybe with the wallets. Now, there are people who would say, no, I'm not comfortable with Paytm at all. There was a scenario when I said, because I believe it, and I used to do a lot of transactions through Paytm, and I asked one of my colleague before, this was last November, she said, Ramani, I'm not very comfortable with the Paytm because I really needed some cash and I wanted to do the online transaction to my colleagues. And trust me, I asked so many people, especially the women, because I work in women's college. And when I asked them, they said, Ramani, we don't believe in Paytm. However, now, I am talking to those people. They said, Ramani, I think we can go ahead with the Paytm transaction. And I was shocked. Now, these are the the movement that I say that yes, pandemics has really made us see the importance of technology. Now, what kind of shifts are observed during different lockdown announcements? Now, if you are able to note down what happened before March 10th, what happened between March 10 to March 16, then I don't know whether you as a students and academicians coming from the background of management are able to keep these observations also. You will see the changes on social network platforms. You're changing in your daily life. You're changing in your professional life. Now, all these things are taking place with the help of the technology. New things are emerging on a daily basis. You want to place an order for vegetable, I don't have to go. Now, imagine I used to walk let's say after every 2 days with my mother and helped her in buying the vegetables. Then the vegetable vendor said to my mother one fine day, "Aapko har roz aane ki kya zarurat hai, ma'am sahab? Why are you taking the risk? You stay at home. Either my person will come and hand over to you, or you can place the order via the app." So you have got the app right from the farms, which is in Hindi called as what do they say, kheti se direct kheti. That is the app. Now, if you look into these apps, the number of apps, I was thinking my phone will collapse one day with these different kind of apps which are available. They are making your life very convenient, very easy, very comfortable. However, the question arises, these three coming at the cost of what? Costing your health. Physical movement is becoming very less for us. So how are you tackling with them? That's something. Then, development, advancement from common man, different domains, daily lives, world leaders, discussions, promotions too, in the improvement at the global levels. If you are able to see something is taking place at the global level, how directly it is hitting the daily life. Now that is also something that I need to understand and go further into it. What there is one more thing point, what kind of innovativeness and creativity is observed. So these are certain things that I have seen. Then innovativeness and creativity, as I was discussing with you, innovativeness taking place due to what? Due to issues and problems. We have seen that yes, this is the issue, immediately the innovativeness was present. I cannot go to the vegetable vendor because of the social distancing. Now here in Delhi NCR, police is highly vigilant, I would say, and they don't allow the public to go to the places to buy the vegetables and fruits. So you have got the online platforms. Now immediately they say you place the order, you have got the choice of when it can be delivered to you, the prices, look, immediately the way the discount they are giving to you, the kind of vegetables which are present, the fruits, including the medicines, everything, the things have been changing. Now boom for startups and entrepreneurs. Earlier it was just with Google, which I saw a lot of startups and entrepreneurs joining Google company through for their product G Suite. However, right now it is not just G Suite. You can see suites taking place for Flipkart, Snapdeal, Amazon, then Big Basket. All these things are available. Who are taking care? How the supply chain is being taken care of at the background? How I would say the localites are joining up big companies without your understanding, without your being present over there also. Changes in the daily. Now I'm not using the common meaning of transaction. I'm placing it in double quotes out here. The daily transactions also have been changed. Now here comes this is the word which I love it, PPP. Now those individuals coming from the background of finance and economics would understand that PPP stands for power, this is power parity that is present over here. Now the question arises how this thing is being, and which I've made you understand in my past slide, that yes, it covers both inflation and non-inflation also side by side in my scenario. Now these are the new things. Then incorporation of both educated and non-educated individuals. A person need not be highly educated in order to launch an app. Now, he can approach, pay around 5,000 and he's able to create an app for himself. A farmer, because I stay in Delhi NCR region, and I have seen the farmer has placed this particular order for designing an app for him. And he says, Teji farm, what does that mean? Directly from the farms. He's able to provide the vegetables. Now, incorporation of this, the new variables for new businesses. We have to understand. Now, there was a time when we used to segregate and say, okay, the last era that we can look for is 50 years. After that, no more entrepreneurs. We don't want to go for any kind of innovative death. However, now I'm seeing 80-year-old, not a man, but a woman placing. Now, similarly, I have seen a small child, come up with their own thing. So, now there are no age factors. So the area in which we are looking for the entire management, the innovativeness is coming from simple things around us. Availability is the scenario. That means what? There is a demand in the market for something. Immediately the supply is being taken care of. That is the innovativeness. That is the creativity I'm looking for. Fulfillment of the gap. That yes, I need something at home. Immediately it is being filled without me to do much research. I'm able to receive it. Filling in the missing links, we are able to see how those links are being taken care of. Similarly, the word sustainable responsibilities, the need, we are seeing that yes, the sustainable responsibilities are coming in the form of new ideas, responsibilities. It is not just for the company or this one, they are from all directions, leaders to the common man. We are seeing their responsibilities taking place towards the society. Ignorance is no more danger. We are seeing that yes, ignorance is creating and filling up those gaps and giving us those leisure enter comfort zones for ourselves. Now, run for the solutions. We are looking, immediate solutions are there. We are not. So I think these are the lessons that we are able to understand during the time of the pandemic itself. Then there is what I call it as collective effect through each one's responsibility. So, it's a very paradoxical kind of a thing. At one thing, you're talking about individuality. However, I'm talking about collectivity. It is highly paradoxical. However, the Zen effect that you can understand, and you are able to find out that yes, each one of us somehow are being collaborating towards each other. That is their responsibility. And in the end, we have got an effect, which we call it as the collectivity in the end. So this is what I wanted to well-beingness in the society through joint effects, through spirituality. You are seeing it that yes, you are somehow getting attached to the spirituality in some form or the other form on a daily basis, and you are taking care of yourself. Innovativeness is beginning at home. In the earlier scenarios, we were seeing that innovativeness is in corporates or multinationals only, or a company or something. But now I'm seeing it is taking place from home. Okay, now creative solutions are being given through technology. So see the flow of the points that I'm giving to you. Sustainability is the need of the hour. And, coming up that yes, total well-beingness is something that I'm looking for. I'm not looking for one individual. I'm looking for that total well-beingness. Let it be a country or let's say a city or a home. That is how you need to understand. And here we have got mental rather than mind, I would say. Mental plus physical plus financial plus spiritual plus emotions, all combined together, you are able to understand the new concept. Then these are what I'm talking about, the social responsibilities. Now the move has come from corporates to non-corporates. Now when I say non-corporate, I'm talking about homes. So in fact, I should have kept it from corporates to homes out here. Then I thought, no, let it be like this. Then changes in startups, changes in daily financial and commercial activities affecting the global scenarios. It's not just one thing. Then changes in time we are seeing. Definitely, yes, a lot of changes are taking place. Traveling, the way. Now, when I say travel, I'm not talking about the physical movement. Here, I'm talking about the social distancing travel itself, where the things are getting immediately done for us. The kind of contribution now we are making towards the environment, health. If you see Facebook, you will see a lot of people have started giving importance to animals. They are not just taking care of themselves. They are moving towards, that is the shift from personal life towards the animals also around you and the natural world, because you're talking about plants, you're talking about trees. You're not there to take away, because you're concerned about your own health in that way, and you are taking care. So I think with this, I'm going to end my presentation. And yes, if some of you have got some questions, you can ask me. I hope that is the end of my presentation. Thank you. Hello?
Hello?
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. We are grateful for the time and effort your we are grateful for time and effort you took to share your thoughts and experience. We learned a lot and got benefited from your valuable speech. At the first, due to some technical problem, I was not able to introduce Dr. Ramani Sharma. So now I am going to speak about her very shortly. Dr. Ramani Sharma is a renowned personality in the field of... Am I audible? Dr. Ramani Sharma is a renowned personality in the field of branding, promotions, marketing, customer service, collections, and hospitality. Over 23 years of experience in various fields with the best clients in the world, with a proven team, builders and motivators. generating the sense of involvement amongst personnel, overcoming the general culture of participation. Dr. Sharma is member of so many prestigious bodies like AIMA Delhi, Ghaziabad Management Association, Noida Management Association, Delhi Management Association, Indian Society of International Law, ASSOCHAM, FICCI, Indo-Turkish Chamber of Commerce and Industries, Japanese Chamber of Commerce and Industries, Chinese Chamber of Commerce and Industries, etc. Her topic was innovativeness and creativity for contemporary times. Thank you again, ma'am.
Yes, thanks a lot. So
Thank you. Now, before the second lecture starts, let me explain how you can talk to us during the webinar. If you have any question during the presentation, just write them in chat box. Please mention the name of the speaker you want to ask the question to. We will have a question answer session at the end to answer your question. Now, let me introduce our next speaker. Our next speaker is Dr. Dagori Chakraborty. She has been very kind to agree be a part of our webinar series. Today, she is speaking on Indian green stocks, a hedging instrument during crisis. She is Associate Professor, Presidency University, Kolkata. She is an alumna of Lady Brahman College, Kolkata. She did her MSc in Economics from University of Calcutta with specialization in International Economics. Her MPhil dissertation was in the area of Financial Economics. Her doctoral work was also in the area of Financial Economics that explored the real sector and financial sector interdependence in the context of the new economy sector. She did her postdoctoral research work from SOM WBUT. She is a member of American Economic Association, life member of Indian Statistical Institute, Kolkata, member of Asian Council of Science Editors, former technical editor of International Journal of Applied Economics and Finance, Journal of Applied Science, Research Journal of Business Management, Asian Journal of Scientific Research. I am very thankful to Dr. Dagori Chakraborty for taking this and agreed to do this webinar in a very short notice. So, her today's topic is Indian green stocks, a hedging instrument during crisis. I hand over to Dr. Chakraborty. Professor, over to you.
Good afternoon. Dr. Chakraborty will be joining in a while. She will be taking 5 minutes to join our webinar.
Oh. Okay.
maybe Shakya, in that case, you can ask the participants to question. If they are, then maybe I can go ahead by that. I mean, till the time the other speaker is there.
Definitely, ma'am. Definitely, ma'am. I will be requesting Devkanti, the host, to unmute the speaker participants so that they can ask the speaker directly.
And I think some of the participants were asking me to share the PowerPoint presentation. I will mail it to Shakya sir, and maybe he can share it for with the entire group later on, sir.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you. Now, this becomes the most difficult part is asking the questions, and that is the reason in my presentation, I wanted to raise the questions and allow each one of us to talk. Otherwise, it's a great difficulty, for each one of us to raise the questions.
Hello, ma'am. Am I audible? Ma'am, could you explain if I want to pay in dollar, what is the procedure I have to follow?
Aminat ji, your voice is very low. So either you can increase the volume.
Yeah. Could you explain if I want to make a payment to dollar? I mean, in terms of dollar. So, what is the procedure in online?
Maybe you can, Aminat, I'm not able to hear your voice properly. Maybe Chupanna, you can ask the participants to share their questions in the chat box.
Yeah.
All the participants are requested, if you have any query regarding this session, please ask in the chat box. Our speaker, Dr. Ramani Sharma, is available to answer you.
Yes, ma'am. I have posted.
Okay, Abhinath, you're asking me how do I make the payment through internet banking in terms of the dollars. Okay, now you see, this is my real experience I'm telling you, as I was sharing in my presentation also. Thing is that you need to visit the bank. They give you a form, an application, you need to fill it up. The bank wherein you have opened your own account, okay, the manager of that particular bank will go ahead and he or she will approve that yes, the account is present in so and so branch. I have seen that particular form also as to what the contents are. After the bank manager approves for the international transaction to be paid in dollars, the signature of the person is there, and then I have to take that form and go to the main branch. For example, like I'm residing in Greater Noida, I have to take this particular form from the corporation bank and visit to another branch under which the group of branches have been collected together. Let's say in Noida. Now, when I went to the Noida branch, the branch manager again verifies my details, each and everything. Final approval is given. They go ahead and search from their portals whether the international bank to which I really need to deposit the money is a genuine or an authentic one. So, after that checking has been done, he approves it, gives me the form, and then, after getting the approval on the bank itself, just like we do the internet banking to the domestic places, I can go ahead and I can transfer the amount after the deduction from my account for the international payment. It's a huge process, and I really got irritated. Because first I need to go ahead with the main branch in the sense that the branch wherein I have got my account. Now, after that, again, I have to travel. The traveling takes place around, let's say, 2 hours for me. And after that, I have to visit. Then, due to the social distancing, they have created the queue. And after 3 hours of the entire checking and that procedure from the side of the bank, it took nearly 5 hours for me just to do the international transaction of 800 rupees. And However, I was very happy that I understood. Now I have got that approval from the bank. However, it is just for one international bank. Tomorrow, let's say I have to again do the transaction to another international bank account. I have to follow the same procedure. So Google Pay does not allow me to do, Phone Pay does not allow me to do, Paytm does not allow me to do it. Even the net banking services that I have got for my own salary account also is not able to do it directly. So for each international, Western Union also I have seen it. If you want to do it via Western Union or other international platforms wherein you can do it by online, you need to deposit three ID cards of yours, either driving license, your international passport, Aadhaar card, voter ID. Once you deposit, a person is sent to your place to verify that yes, you are the authentic person, that means me, and I am present at that particular location. After the physical verification has been taken place, which normally takes about 2 to 3 days, and after that another day, and immediately I get the access. However, since India has signed right now that they will not allow any of the Chinese applications or the website, so some of them do not allow me to proceed further with the international banking services. So only some of them are there which are able to do it. However, I got so irritated that I said, no, I will not go for the other platforms which are available for me. I was happy with the bank, and since I had to do, I placed this concern of mine with the parent college which was organizing the seminar, and I requested them, I cannot make the payment in future if it is for a different college or the institute. So that is how it is. However, it was a lesson for me, and I wrote a case study on this one, especially with the experience of mine, and hopefully I should be able to get it published also side by side. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Now we're concluding partly the question answer session because our second speaker, Dr. Dagori Chakraborty, joined with us. Welcome, Dr. Dagori Chakraborty, ma'am. Very good afternoon. Now let me introduce again our next speaker. Our next speaker is Dr. Dagori Chakraborty. She has been very kind to agree to be a part of our webinar series. Today she is speaking on Indian green stock, hedging instrument during crisis.
Thank you so much for giving me the.
Excuse me. Your introduction is she is Associate Professor, Presidency University, Kolkata. She is an alumna of Lady Brahman College, Kolkata. She did her MSc in Economics from University of Calcutta with specialization International Economics. Her MPhil dissertation was in the area of financial economics. Her doctoral work was also in the area of financial economics that explored the real sector and financial sector interdependence in the context of the new economic sector. She did her postdoctoral research work from SOMWB. She is a member of American Economic Association, life member of Indian Statistical Institute, Kolkata, member of Asian Council of Science Editors, former technical editor of the International Journal of Applied Economics and Finance, Journal of Applied Science, Research Journal of Business Management, Asian Journal of Scientific Research. I am very thankful to Dr. Dagori Chakraborty for taking this and agreed to do this webinar in a very short notice. So, today's topic is Indian green stocks, a hedging instrument during crisis. I hand over to Dr. Chakraborty. Professor, over to you.
Thank you so much for inviting me in the webinar. So I'll be just sharing my presentation with you. So for the time being, I'm just keeping my video in the off mode. So I'll be presenting now. So, hello everyone. We are meeting today in the midst of a crisis which the United Nations has described as far more than a health crisis. It is affecting societies and economies at their core. With economic activities being shut down, there is a tremendous confidence effect. Looking back into history, crises have always been the norm rather than the exceptions. Starting from the tulip mania in 1630, economic and financial vulnerabilities have generated waves of crises in the world economy. Not all the crises by nature have been the same. Rather, they come in different forms and had different origins. Some of these remained confined to the domestic or regional boundaries, while most of them spread in no time from the peripheries to the center with an ultimate devastating impact on the entire economy. In today's knowledge-driven, financially integrated era, such speedy spread of crisis is almost inevitable. The financial crisis of earlier days, for example, those in France and Britain during the latter half of the 1710s, remained confined to the regional territories. The first significant global crisis has probably been the Panic of 1825 that initiated in Britain and eventually spread to the markets of Europe and Latin America. Since then, the global economy collapsed many a time. Panic spread from the US to the countries of Europe, Asia, and Africa in 1857. Apart from some regional crises in 1819, 1837, 1866, and 1893, global economy witnessed catastrophic crashes in 1873, 1907, and most importantly in 1929. The debt crisis during the 1980s and the internet bubble during the last few years of the 20th century were followed by a global financial meltdown that was in track since mid-2007. This crisis was being described as the worst financial crisis since the one related to the Great Depression of the 1930s, but before the outbreak of this recent pandemic. The analysts are once again visualizing a financial crisis to follow. Now, before we go into that, let us first of all consider that what generates a financial crisis. The financial crises are often seen as black swan, events that are fatal but improbable and extremely difficult, if not impossible, to predict. There is then no single path that the financial crisis could follow. However, treating financial crisis as black swan ignores the fact that although the crisis gearing mechanism differs from one crash to another, they have much in common. Almost all the crises are crises of confidence that begin when an initial boom turns into a bubble. But the question remains, what makes a boom take on the path of a bubble? We must admit that a silver line does have its clouds, and each boom brings into its train a potential bubble. A typical bubble begins with a precipitating factor, such as the development of a new product, process, or a theory that seems unique to the investors. This is usually followed by an amplification mechanism, generally in the form of assertion from media and some other like institutions that reinforce the view, and the resulting stock price hike that convinces the investors about the emerging opportunities. People seem to keep faith on the four most dangerous words in finance. This time, it's different. Investors start believing that the traditional rules no longer apply. The current price rise is different from bubble, the market is flawless, and most importantly, the boom will continue even in the presence of irrational exuberance. The initial increase then generates expectations of further increase, and now it attracts the new buyers and normally the speculators. The rule of the game now changes, so it now becomes momentum. So we stay close to the herd and track everyone else. Now, there are rational investors also. What are they doing? The rational investors who realize that not all of it is legal and not all of it is wealth are just crowded out. Or they just find it very difficult to bet against the bubble to stop it in its track. And the bubble bursts when the initial euphoria turns into a retreat. Now, the recent time is witnessing interesting movements in the stock markets all over the world. The stock market indexes declined over a month from mid-March to mid-April in almost all the regions. Portfolio investments, which is typically a volatile asset class, have reacted rapidly to the shock that the pandemic inflicted on the global economy. Economies that had entered the crisis with weaker positions have already experienced massive outflows of portfolio investment. Now, this repeats a familiar pattern whereby international investors transfer their capital back home or invest in safer assets during the periods of uncertainty. What appears exceptional about the capital flow dynamics during this COVID-19 crisis are the scale and the speed of the outflows. Now, this will be clear if we consider the movements in the prices in 4 different regions. So although our focus is on the Indian market, we shall be comparing that with the other important regions. So here we have the 3 regions: US market, European market, Asia Pacific market, and then the Indian market. So this is Dow Jones Industrial Average. This is Stocks Europe 600. So this is the market index for the European region as a whole. This is once again Stocks Asia Pacific 600. So it is once again the regional index for the Asia Pacific sector, and excluding of course India. And then we have the Indian market. Now, if we consider this diagram, the movements in the prices, then we shall clearly show that there are 2 crises shown here. One is here, so this is the 2007-2008 crisis, and this is here, so this is the recent pandemic. Now, if we consider the 2007-8 diagram, or rather the 2007-8 figure, then we shall find that this movement, there was a downward trend in all the markets. But if we compare it with the recent pandemic situation, we shall find that there has been a steep decline in all the 4 regions, So that is the movement that I was talking about earlier. But one interesting feature is that since mid-April, there has been a significant run in the stock market. So stock prices have started rising. So this data is until July 24th, 2020. So we have a significant upward movement in all these 4 markets. Now the question is, what drives this run? Is it a trouble spot that is going on unnoticed? Or it is just left unattended in intense speculative interest? Is it a bubble that is going to be pricked? Is it a side effect of monetary policy that is currently undertaken? Or is it the real economic value creation that has started? Now, in that case, it should be backed by the strong fundamentals. So our question now remains, is that so? So now we are talking about the fundamentals and how good are the fundamentals. The current global economic crisis is unlike anything the world has seen before, with a higher degree of uncertainty about the recovery. For the first time since the Great Depression, both the advanced and the emerging market economies will be in recession in 2020. As per the IMF analysis, the countries are looking for the emergency financing. The IMF forecast the global GDP would contract by 4.9% this year. So there has been a significant downgrade from its previous estimate, which projected GDP to shrink by 3%. Inflation is anticipated to rise, whereas we are assuming that the unemployment will be rising in different sectors also. Of course, it will be sector specific, but it is going to rise. Now, there is another important feature which says that the trade is actually going to fall this year. As we already know that production and consumption are scaled back across the globe. So production and consumption has fallen significantly. There has been growing number of export prohibitions and restrictions. 80 countries and separate custom territories have introduced export prohibitions or restrictions as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. Transparency at the multilateral level is lacking. Of course, e-commerce is flourishing, no doubt in that. But at the same time, we should be able to bridge the digital divide both within and across the countries. Trade in services that involves proximity between suppliers and consumers has been severely impeded. A lack of resources to support an economic rebound is compounded by the LDC's dependence on a limited range of products exported to a few markets, some of which have been those that are worst affected by the COVID-19 outbreak. Therefore, the pandemic threatens to derail the hard-won development gains in the LDCs. Another severe problem is that as the migrant workers are coming back from the host countries that are affected by the pandemic, the flows of remittances, which is a critical source of foreign exchange for many countries, have dramatically dried up. Now, the situation could be made better if the FDI flows were higher. Now, we are already anticipating the FDI flows to fall around 40%. Now, FDI, as I am mentioning right now, could play an important role in supporting the economies during the economic recovery following the pandemic. Evidence from past crises has shown that foreign-owned affiliates, including small and medium enterprises, can show greater resilience during the crisis because of their linkages with and access to the financial resources of their parent companies. FDI could be particularly important for emerging and developing economies, given that other sources of international financing, including portfolio investment, have fled those economies. But unfortunately, it appears that the impacts of the pandemic on FDI flows to these economies may be particularly severe. Faced with all these problems, the many emerging markets and developing economies are now having their currencies to have weakened sharply. But once again, the problem is that we cannot, or the emerging markets and the developing economies cannot benefit much from these weaker currencies, because firms price their international sales and finance themselves in a few foreign currencies, notably the US dollar. Corporates, on the other hand, are being hard hit too. Their earning projections, profit projections have already been revised downwards. The corporate debts are substantially high. Their credit ratings are low, and the debts are having poor protective covenant. The MNC, the profit of the multinational corporations, have fallen. So that will be leading to some real economic problem, because the reinvestment of earning would also fall. Moreover, cross-border merger and acquisition has fallen. new project announcement has fallen. So once again, this might have an adverse impact on the equity flows. What I must mention that in this new regime, the monetary policy is having also some challenges. So the conventional policy space has been exhausted. So how to use the monetary policy? Secondly, which is most important for our analysis is that if the rate of interest is lowered through the monetary policy, then the asset market may be flourished and ultimately the asset market may be detached from the economic fundamentals. Now already some of the central banks have provided stimulus to the financial markets of their country, of their markets. Now IMF has praised all these central banks for this, but the problem is that the financial markets perhaps are on a rising trend, but this will continue if and only if the support is there from the government. So therefore, we are having a real problem. The stock markets are not really backed by the strong fundamentals. So in this unstable phase, is there any asset on which the risk-averse investors can depend to hedge against the risk? Now, this is particularly where the green investment comes in. The issue of green investment is receiving considerable attention in the recent time. It has been mentioned that when this economy, this world economy will be emerging out of the crisis, we should aim at building a world that is more resilient, more efficient, more inclusive, and more sustainable. So this could be achieved if we focus on climate change, and in this context, the necessity to accelerate green investment is becoming so important. Now the problem is, although it is so important, it is really very difficult to ensure that corporates who are among the most significant polluters would be going for the green investment, because they are essentially profit maximizer. And the profit maximizing corporate would be attracted to green investment if and only if it can earn substantial profit. In terms of financial performance, this requires higher valuation of stocks of the green companies. Now, increased demand for stocks, however, might come from the risk-averse investors if and only if the stock is less risky. Now, we shall be talking about the speculators later on, whose demand will further destabilize the situation. The literature suggests that there is enough potential in green investment to outperform its non-green or grey counterpart in the stock markets. At this particular point of juncture, we shall now show that the green stocks are inherently safe, so that investors might use it as a hedging instrument, of course, in this turbulent phase. Now, while investors keep faith on the green stocks, their valuation increases. The valuation of the stocks will be increasing, so making the corporates interested in going green. So this is an additional channel. So thus, while green investment is essential for a better future, its intrinsic nature makes it a safe place for investment, which in turn makes the process for going green a smoother one. So with this, now we shall be defining the risk. What is meant by, or rather in this analysis, how do we define the risk? As we all know that when we are talking about some asset, there are two types of risk. One is called the unique risk and the other is called the market risk. The unique risk is the risk that is associated with the movements in the asset itself. So this risk is attributed to the characteristic feature of the particular stock, a particular asset. So here we shall be talking about stocks only. And this risk is diversifiable. For example, if we have a stock which is really is having very high unique risk, then we can always combine another low risk stock with this particular stock and we can find out a portfolio. But the problem is that the market risk cannot be diversified. So it will be affecting all the assets, all the stocks equally perhaps, and so it is very difficult to diversify. Therefore, as an investor, or rather as a risk-averse investor, it is the market risk that is more important rather than the unique risk. So in our analysis, we shall show that the market risk of the green stock is really, really low, even during this period of crisis. So that makes it a safe place for investment. So how to find out the market risk? So for that, we are using a very simple model. This is the traditional capital asset pricing model. Here we have RI is the return on the ith stock. RF is the risk-free factor, risk-free rate. Therefore, RI minus RF is nothing but the risk premium on the ith stock. Similarly, RM is the market return for any one benchmark index. So RM minus RF is nothing but the risk premium that the market enjoys. So this beta gives us the market risk or the market sensitivity. So how does it, or rather what does it show? It shows that how sensitive the particular stock is to the market movement. Suppose beta is exactly equal to 0. So in that case, the stock's return is not at all related to the return of the market. If beta is greater than 1, then that means if the market rises by 1%, this stock's return will be rising by more than 1%. So that's good. But the problem is when there is a risk and the market falls by 1%, it will be falling by more than 1%. So these are the aggressive stocks and they are inherently risky. What happens if beta is less than 1? So it's good because if the market falls by 1%, it will be falling by less than 1%. So these are defensive stocks. So we shall be using this beta and using some methodology. I have made it dynamic so that instead of having a constant market risk, the market risk is moving over the time. So I am not going into the details of that methodology, but what I am saying that I am just making the market risk moving over the time. I have considered a sample period from 2007 to 2020 July. So the choice of the period is justified because it will be having, it is going to show the effects of two significant crises of recent years. So one is the 2007-8 financial meltdown and the recent pandemic, so that we can compare the two crisis situation. So we have 4 regions, rather 3 regions and 1 country actually: Europe, US, Asia Pacific and India. Now we have the green index. So before we move on further, let us now just try to clarify what is meant by a green index. Now, green companies, as we all know, will be using greener processes in production, in its day-to-day expenses, in day-to-day management, and so on. Now, in the stock market, the different stocks are compared in terms of 3 attributes. One is the average turnover. Second is the size given by the market capitalization. And third is the carbon emission. So this is the carbon footprint. So these 3 parameters will be used to construct an index. So for each stock, we have some weighted value of these 3 parameters. Then we rank the different stocks and we use the most green stocks, so the most highly performing stocks. So in that way, the green indexes are formed or constructed. Therefore, the green indexes will be having stocks of the green companies and we shall be referring those stocks as the green stocks. So that is for India, and this same methodology is actually used for the other regional green indexes. So for the Indian market, we have BSE Sensex, the benchmark index, the index of the 30 most valuable stocks. For the regional green indexes, we are using the Dow Jones Sustainability Indexes. So Dow Jones offers sustainability indexes for different regions. So we have it for the Europe, for the US, and for the Asia Pacific region. Now for each of the regions, we have the 3 market indexes. We have already seen how the markets have behaved in our previous slide. So that is the data set. Now, these show the movement in the prices in the market as well as in the green. Now, there are cases where the greens are giving higher prices than the market, and there are phases when the greens are giving lesser prices, or green prices are lesser than the market prices. Now, this comparison may not be of much use, because as the investor, we are more interested in return rather than the absolute prices. Therefore, instead of discussing in terms of the prices, let us now move on to the return. So returns are nothing but the proportionate change in the prices. So now we have calculated the return. But the problem is, if we plot the returns along the time axis, then we shall be having just random fluctuations. So it will be having no trend. So cycle will not be clear. So from that, it is very difficult to understand anything. So that I have isolated the cyclical movements in the market as well as in the green stocks returns. So this is the cycle, the long-term movements. So I have actually smoothed out all the short-term fluctuations. Now that gives us interesting result. So let us consider the US market. So this was the period when there was the financial meltdown of 2007-8. Now the green were moving in line with the market. So the 2 cycles were coinciding. But if we consider this region, this phase actually, this is the recent pandemic phase, clearly the greens are much above than the market, right? Now we come to the European market. The same thing happens here. Now, in this context, it is better to point out that US green and the US and the European, these 2 markets are the advanced markets in terms of the financial development, growth, and so on. Whereas Asia Pacific market is not that developed, and similarly Indian market. But these 3 markets have one thing in common. In these 3 markets, the green investment or the construction of the green index came at a much earlier date. Whereas in India, we have the green index only from 2008 October. So Indian greens rather, a relatively new entrant in the market. So that is, of course, obvious, because the consideration about green investment, the consciousness, all these generated much earlier in these markets in US, Europe, and in Asia Pacific region. Now let us once again come back to the European case. Now this is very interesting. Now whenever the market is rising, greens are giving less than the market. But the point is that we are talking about the risk-averse investors, right? So if we are talking about the risk-averse investor, then all these analysis will be just fruitless, because the risk-averse investor will always be interested in risk. So it doesn't matter whether the market risk is there or not. So this analysis will be in terms of the risk-averse investor. Now the point is, when the market is rising, greens are giving less than the market, true. But when the market is falling, the greens are giving better return. Greens have given historically better return than the market during the market slowdown. This was true for this period also, but only unstable thing is that in this period, the greens are giving relatively lower return compared to the market. But historically, it has given higher return than the market when the market was on a downswing. So we can wait and watch for the European market. The situation in the Asia Pacific market is different, right? So when the market was falling during 2007-8 crisis, the greens were giving better returns, right? Now here it was moving in line with the market. Once again, here the market is falling, greens are also falling, but of course it is giving higher return. Now, most significantly, if we consider this period, then we shall find that while the market is going down, greens are giving us higher return. Coming back to the Indian market, what happens? When the during the 2007-8 crisis, when market was rising towards the peak, then greens were of course giving less return than the market. But the thing is that when the market was falling substantially, greens were giving higher return. And the same thing once again is happening here. The recent pandemic situation is witnessing the same result. The greens are giving more than the market. So let us now focus on the risk, the market risk, time varying market risk. As I have mentioned earlier, this is the market risk and I have made it variable over time. So this is the movement in the market risk. Now, once again, just by looking at this, it is very difficult to infer anything, right? So for that, we shall be considering a very simple graph once again. Now, this empirical survivor graph shows us, I'll be explaining that. This shows us the probability of getting a value which is at least as great as a given value. So let's take an example. Consider the US case. On the horizontal axis, we are measuring the values of the time varying beta, or just simple, the betas. And on the vertical axis, we are having the probabilities. So the value 1 is associated with a probability of roughly 0.4. It is slightly above 0.4, but it is not 0.5 either. So I'm taking it as roughly to be 0.4. So what does that signify? That means the probability of getting a value greater than 1 is only 40%. Now, as we have discussed earlier, what happens if the beta is greater than 1? The sector or the asset is aggressive, it is more risky. Therefore, on average, so what is the most probable value of US beta or US market risk of the green stocks? It is roughly 40%. So in 60% cases, US green is defensive. So that shows that US greens are really not that risky. Similarly, for the European TVB, what happens? Probability of getting a beta value which is greater than or equal to 1 is less than 40% even. So once again, it's defensive. Consider the Asia Pacific market. It is roughly 10%. So Asia Pacific greens are relatively more defensive, right? More defensive. And here for the India case, it is roughly 30%, slightly above 30%. So from this diagram, we show that, so that gives us the movements in the time varying risk. So it might have different ranges where risks are higher and it might have different ranges where risks are lower. But roughly, it is more probable to have the sector to be a defensive sector. Now, the same thing may be discussed if we consider the cyclical movements in the time varying beta or in the market risk. So it is the cyclical value, the long-term movements. And I have considered these three markets in combination and the Indian market separately. The reason is obvious, because the green index was a new entrant in the Indian market, so that the two periods will not be matching with one another. So this diagram is actually giving us, or rather is showing us a very significant result, or very significant finding for the investors. So clearly it shows two humps, right? So this is around the 2007-8 crisis. This is around the recent pandemic situation. So this period, so this is the period 2007 to 2000, this is up to 2007. So this was a period when the markets were moving towards the peak. It was not the initiation of the crisis. So it was markets were moving towards the peak. Then the market risks were rising for the green stocks. But what is interesting is that when the economies were in crisis, so consider these periods, 2008, 2009, then we find that the risks are falling substantially. So what does that signify? The green stocks in all the regions will be offering a lower market risk during the crisis. So that's really significant for the risk-averse investor. Similar analysis may be done in terms of the recent pandemic situation. So just before the problem, the market risks were on a higher side. But once the crisis is there, the market risk was falling significantly. So once again, during the crisis, the market risk falls. Of course, if we consider these movements, then we shall find that the cyclical values of the Asia Pacific will be higher compared to these values. Okay. So now, these are the three markets. So what happens to India then? Because our focus is on India. So Indian market, as we have mentioned earlier, that it was a late entrant green stocks. So when the economy was in crisis, so we have the period from 3rd October 2008. So this was a period when the crisis was in full swing in India. Because in Indian market, the 2007-8 crisis was initiated in January 2008 and it continued till 8th March 2009. From 9th March onwards, the market started rising. So this was the period when the market risk was significantly increasing. And after that, it fell when the effect of the crisis was actually mitigated. Now, why this is so? Does that necessarily mean that the Indian greens are really not that safe? Come to the recent pandemic situation. Before the crisis, the risks were higher, but during the crisis, the risks has fallen. So this could be, so the movement of, or the nature of the green stock or the green index in the Indian market may be different from what it is in the US, Europe and the Asia Pacific region. One reason behind this may be that during 2007-8 or during 2008, Indian green stocks were just the new entrants, so that they were not matured enough to overcome or to tackle the problems in the market. But over time, it has become matured enough so that in the recent pandemic situation, they are showing their safe nature. So from this movement, actually, we find that the risks, the market risks of the green stocks are really much less, particularly during the crisis. Now the problem is, as I was mentioning earlier, the crises are actually the crisis of confidence. Therefore, if the speculators or the momentum investors enter the market, then that destabilizes the entire situation, the entire market. So before we conclude that, okay, the green stocks are so good and we should term it as the safe place for investment, let us now try to find out, is there anything for the speculators? So will these stocks be inviting the speculators in the field? So for that, I have considered a simple modification of the original campaign that we considered earlier. So this modification was done by Jensen, Professor Jensen, and the only difference with the previous model is that here we have an intercept term, alpha. This alpha is called the Jensen's alpha. Now, why is this alpha so important? Because it says that if, suppose alpha is significant and positive, then at any point in time, this particular asset will be beating the market. So it will be giving more return than the market. And if alpha is 0, then of course there is no problem. So it will be giving just the capping result. And if alpha is significantly negative, then it is underperforming the market. So that is why we have estimated the Jensen's alpha for green stocks in all these 4 regions and for 3 periods. For the entire period, 2007 to 2020, for the first crisis, that is financial meltdown of 2007-8, and the recent pandemic situation, which is the most current situation. Now, of course, this pandemic situation for the 3rd phase, actually, the data is, the time period is not that long. But since we have daily data, the problem of estimation is not there. But of course, as the time goes on, we shall be able to get a better result. So here, in all these cases, the alpha stands out to be insignificant. So that means that in none of these cases, the green stocks could beat the market in terms of return. Now, if that is the case, then of course, it is not going to attract the speculators as per the given scenario. But we should not be myopic. With the short-term analysis, we should be talking about the long-term view also. We have already discussed the ways in which the financial crisis generate in an economy. So these are actually the crisis of confidence. Now the point is, current emphasis on green investment at the national and global level might identify the sector as the sector of the future. This might generate some optimism among the investors. Now, given the low risk of the stocks and the assertion about its potential, the initial euphoria might lead to an irrational exuberance. Consequently, the stocks may be excessively overvalued to invite speculators or momentum traders. So right now, there is nothing in the market to attract the speculators. But now we shall be more conscious or more careful about the future. Now, if the bubble develops, then it will eventually burst and the existing exuberance would transform itself into profound pessimism to dominate the investor sentiment. That is usually the case. If there is irrational exuberance, there is a bubble, and if the bubble is pricked, then the people become ultra pessimistic. So such pessimism may be too dominant to overlook all the grounded benefits and could trigger hard behavior in terms of investment withdrawal. So once the bubble is pricked and there is ultra pessimism, so we shall not be interested in any kind of benefit that it is going to offer. So it is the price that matters, and since others are selling, so I must sell. So it is the hard behavior. Now this might be dangerous because discouraged by such withdrawal and the resultant downsizing in the valuation of their asset, corporates may be tempted not to adopt greener production process and even to elude if the environmental laws force them to do so. So this would defeat the global objective of limiting the carbon footprint and pose a serious threat to the global climate. And as we are trying to point it out that when the world economy will be emerging out of the crisis, then green investment will be the call for the day. So given the current situation, it is fine. So it is good for the investors, for the discovered investors, so that there will be demand for the green stocks. So that is actually an indirect channel. So the green investors will be, the discovered investors will be interested in the green stocks. So higher valuation, corporates will be interested to go for the green investment. But we should be very, very careful about the long-term consequences, because such assertion have already proved dangerous. We have already seen that during the IT revolution. So we should be very, very careful about the long-run consequences. So that's all for today. I'd be happy to take questions. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chakraborty, for such an excellent speech, making this webinar meaningful and interesting. It's indeed a great presentation. Now we are proceeding towards the question and answer session. I am requesting all participants, any questions to speakers, write it in chat box.
Yeah, of course, I can. I have a question actually. It's not a question, it's just a request to get the presentation. So actually, this is a working paper. It's a part of the working paper with me and Professor Chitrakalpo Sen of Jindal Global University. So I can share this presentation with you. So I can send it to the coordinators also. So you can always have a look at that.
Thank you, ma'am.
For the interest. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Now I request our IQC coordinator, Dr. Suparna Chatterjee, for vote of thanks of this paper. Professor Chatterjee, over to you. Am I audible?
Yes. Yes.
Sir. Chatterjee. Now I request.
Can I be heard, Suparna?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Suparna.
Okay. Thank you, Suparna. A very good afternoon to everyone present here. On behalf of the Internal Quality Assurance Cell, Nabogram Hiralal Paul College, I feel honored to thank the resource persons of the two-day national webinar organized by the Department of Commerce in collaboration with IQAC. The webinar had been on contemporary issues in management, finance, and ICT. Thank you, Dr. Rishiraj Sharma, Professor, Department of Business Management and Associate Dean, Guru Nanak Dev University, for your very insightful and enriching lecture yesterday on management principles enshrined in the Vedas. I would thank Dr. Ramani Sharma, Faculty of Management, Delhi Technical Campus, Delhi University, for your very thought-provoking discussion today on innovativeness and creativity for contemporary times. Thank you, Dr. Dagori Chakraborty, Associate Professor in the Department of Economics, Presidency University, Kolkata, for your erudite exposition on Indian green stocks. Green investments have come up as a challenge for the corporates, I'm sure. I'm sure all of us present in the webinar have been enriched by the different discussions that have taken place over the past 2 days.
We are deeply indebted to our principal, Dr. Srikanto Shamunto, whose untiring efforts and advice have helped to make this webinar a great success. I would take this opportunity to thank our chief patron, Sri Apurva Mojumdar, President, governing body of our college, for taking an active and genuine interest in the academic affairs of the college. A big hand for all the dedicated and motivated faculty of the Department of Commerce, headed by Dr. Amarnath Das. Thank you, Dr. Probit Datto, Mr. Shubhendu Kundu, Mr. Kaushik Dari, Mr. Shakko Shinghode, and Srimati Suparna Roy for your untiring efforts. Special thanks to Mr. Devkanti Das for the indispensable technical support required for the webinar. I would thank the entire teaching faculty, non-teaching staff, and students of Nabogram Hiralal Paul College. Finally, we are indeed grateful to all the participants, both faculty and students of other institutions, for joining in the discussions and making the webinar a great success. Have a great evening ahead. Stay safe and healthy. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Suparna Chatterjee. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up our afternoon. On behalf of Department of Commerce, Nabogram Hilalpal College, thank you all for making time in your busy schedule to join us. Wish you all a pleasant day. Stay safe and stay indoor. Thank you very much.